Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Chasing Collectibles Catchup. I'm Tyler,
I'm Tim.
I'm Lauren.
and this is our, I guess, technically season two premiere. If we're calling this seasons, I can't believe we got renewed by the network. It was it was a biased decision, but we're back for 2023, and we're excited to have a very special guest. We have Ron Rossmann with us here today. Be Your Own Heroes Productions LLC, and you may have seen him at a con here and there, dressed as
Yeah,
Batman. So, welcome, Ron.
thanks for having me. It's an absolute pleasure and honor.
Well,
Thanks for being on.
we've seen you a few times at some shows in the Charlotte area. You make a pretty good Batman,
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. It's a lot of fun.
and I don't know if I've been dressed as the Riddler at a show that you've been at, but if I was, I'm sure I'd be nervous, about what could happen. So,
I'm a pacifistic Batman, so no worries there.
okay, excellent. Well, I thought we could start off just our conversation talking about your company, Be Your Own Hero Productions. How'd that all get started, and what do you guys do?
So, interesting story. I'm gonna try to keep the Reader's Digest version using my boomer terminology. Um, so when I was about 17, I was contemplating suicide. Had everything arranged and was going to do my last night going to see Batman '89 in the movie theater. For those of you who live in Charlotte, there's a place called Queen Park. It's no longer existent, but it was a really cool theater. They had a midnight showing of Keaton's Batman, and I went with a friend of mine. I was going to sleep over that night, and he had no idea I was internalizing a lot of it, and so we went and saw it. And for some reason, seeing Michael Keaton play Batman had this huge impact on me. Now, I had been a Batman fan prior to that, huge Batman fan in the comics, not an Adam West fan, more of the comics.
Mhm.
And for some reason, seeing this ordinary guy play Batman, because Keaton played it very subtle, he wasn't overshooting it. There was brood when he was in the costume, but he played a very playboyish Bruce Wayne. And I thought, wow, if that guy could be Batman, anybody could be that type of hero. And as silly as that sounds, that stuck in my head. So I went
Man.
back to the house that night and we watched a couple more movies, and then I went to bed and woke up the next morning and went back to my house, was sitting in my room, had the apparatus, and said, you know what, Ron, no one's going to save you. You're going to have to be your own hero. You're going to have to save yourself, and you cannot let this darkness overwhelm you. And so that was the birthing of the Be Your Own Hero concept. And when I started cosplaying for charities, I implemented that into the name of what I was doing. It was Be Your Own Hero Cosplay. And what I wanted to be was the guy who stood in the gap for kids who didn't have any heroes, and to actually, when I was at events, be so much Batman that I could create that illusion for those kids and those people that Batman was there, and maybe give them that escape, even if it's for a couple of seconds, that escape from whatever crap they were going through in their life. And so I kind of crafted this almost family friendly comedic Batman, even before Will Arnett did it. And before Bat Dad, everyone always thinks that I'm Bat Dad. I did it for Bat Dad, and created this kind of very kid friendly Batman who jokes, who makes these really ludicrous comments. And after I did that, it started to take off. I had a ridiculous costume. It was like a ski suit painted black with this very tight Keaton cowl. And then I finally was able to afford a real costume. I bought a costume that was actually pulled off the mold of the actual, I believe, the actual Keaton mold from Superhero Concepts out of Australia, Larry Abdullah. And I started really doing it. In the next 15 years, I did it for Make-A-Wish, Levine's Children's Hospital, various atrium hospitals, various charities. We did birthday parties. And then I started building this collective that we called Beyond Hero Cosplay. And it was just a bunch of cosplayers coming together, doing events together. And that transitioned into the film where it became Beyond Hero Productions. And we LLC'd it this year. And it's kind of my way of saying that no matter who you are, what you've got against you, you can achieve something better. And my goal is to pay it forward to other filmmakers, to other cosplayers, to give them a way that they can show their talent. So I do a lot of stuff for free. And I know it's not a great business model, but that's just, I feel like it's part of my service. I know people throw around the word ministry very, very flippantly, but my ministry of kind of giving back to the people who helped me and kind of stood in the gap for me. So that's it in a
That
nutshell.
that is amazing.
Thank you.
That is really something that a hero would do.
Mm-hmm.
To compress it like that has taken me years to kind of tell that story, because when I start off, people are like, "Oh my God, we went dark quick," but it is very hopeful. So, we've done stuff with anti-bullying. We've done stuff with all of my cosplayers are vetted, so that we know for sure they're a complete safety. We never break character. We have a strict code of ethics, and that carries into our productions as well. So.
That's so cool because we've talked before about how, we all love comics and superheroes and all this stuff for various reasons. And, escapism is a big part of it. So anything you can do to just, like you said, make somebody's day better. And the fact that you guys can make characters come to life for people who need it, that's awesome.
Yeah. And to see a child, especially a child who's struggling, see you as Batman, open their eyes. We had about 2 years ago, right before COVID, or it was right at the cusp of COVID. They asked me to come and do a Batman thing for a young man who was terminally ill, and they didn't tell me he was dying like within the next 24 to 48 hours.
Oh, wow.
So when I arrived, he was barely lucid, and they kind of brought him out. And I was feeling bad because I feel like they're kind of bringing this kid out, and you could tell he wasn't fully with it, and you could see how frail he was.
Mm-hmm.
And he opened his eyes and he saw Batman, and the eyes just went wide. And I talked to him for a very short time, had the voice and all that. He couldn't really interact with me, but just the eyes told me that he saw Batman there. And then within the next couple of days, he passed. So that's the kind of stuff that makes it worthwhile. I think the cosplay community has become very, and we're all kind of attention whores when it comes to cosplayers, and it's okay. There's nothing wrong with having that fun. But recently, the community's become kind of toxic, and it's gone a really weird way with kind of Instagram and OnlyFans and all that stuff. So it's upsetting to see such a beautiful art form kind of take a commercialized approach, and then a lot of the communities have become toxic. And where it was a place where kind of outcasts like me could hang out and fun, now it's very mainstream, and you see a lot of guys who go to the gym every day, which is fine. I applaud that. But you kind of, all of a sudden, the cool kids are now taking over the thing that the non-cool kids had kind of a market on. So
Right.
it's a weird transition.
Mm-hmm. Well, so with it being an LLC, it's kind of it encompasses more than just the cosplay and film and a couple different things that you've done. I know you've published a couple books. I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so that's how all this started with the production side. I wanted to publish a book. I finished the manuscript, got 62 rejection letters from literary agents. I have them all, kept every single one of them, printed them up. And so I decided to self-publish, which is not a cheap route to go. The book was inspired by my mom's 3-year battle with cancer, and she refused chemo and radiation because she said she didn't want to survive. She'd rather live. So she'd rather live a shorter time and live that life to the fullest than survive based off the effects. And she was stage 4. So, and believe it or not, she made it 3 years and was with it that 3 years. The last part of that third year is when she started to take her downward turn. So I thought, wouldn't it be cool to make a story about where all the heroes are cancer survivors? So I love Lovecraft, love King. So I created a Lovecraftian King style story called The Lost Road to Hope, Don't Survive, Live, which is about these cancer patients that are all stage 4. They're at this clinic. This cataclysmic event happens, and it opens up a dimension where creatures are starting to come forward, and at the same process is transforming them as well. And it's about this one man, a cop, who just wants to get back to his family. It was originally called 30 Miles, which was the length of where he was supposed to go to that destination. And so the whole story is about him having to suddenly become this leader for this group of motley crew of people that he doesn't want to really lead. And he connects with this girl whose name is Hope. And the story is basically, as the story progresses, this young girl, this cancer survivor, ends up becoming his reason to live, because her story is so tragic, and she's the most tragic character, and she kind of becomes this really powerful presence among the group. And it's a really cool story. I really went full force in trying to create this interdimensional characters, where I took SeaWorld characters or marine life and brought them into land life, and what would that look like? And enjoyed writing it, and it's on Amazon right now. Hasn't done super well because it was grassroots, my first book, but I'm very proud of it, and I'm glad it's out there. The second book was The Crux. That was supposed to be a series. We ran out of money, unfortunately, so I wasn't able to continue. But think of Doctor Who meets the Avengers, but the majority of the cast is female. I wanted to create, because I had a daughter, I wanted to create a female heroes that weren't over sexualized, that weren't kind of I wanted to make genuine characters. So these are mythical creatures that are majority female, that kind of make up this superhero group, that live in this dimension between life, death, and the afterlife. And so that's called The Crux. And so what happens is there's this breach, and these creatures start going into the real world, and their job is to bring them back and stop them. One of the main characters is a cowboy who was killed in the Wild West. And what happens if you die, if you're murdered in a violent way, you end up in the Crux, and you end up serving them kind of as a avenger. So anybody who dies violently ends up being, instead of the idea they haunt the earth, they end up becoming these they're given a chance to become heroes and to help someone else. So very large book. I found out at that point that if you're trying to publish a book, they should be about that big. Because when you put them this big, what the bookstores feel like they could put 3 of those books on the shelf compared to your one book. So both of them are available online. It's like 600 pages, the other book. So, but it was supposed to be a trilogy, and it was learning process of how, at that time, I didn't know how to kind of break things up. So I was just throwing everything in the kitchen sink.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got some experience with writing and trying to get story published for a while. And I know like the literary agent route can be really grueling, and I've kept a lot of those, and you're like, is it me? Is it them? Is it, you kind of like go through those mental gymnastics. So
yeah, you have to. The thing about self-publishing is you have to write books that literary agents are going to buy. And at that time that I was writing, the number one was romance, and I am not a romance writer. I am a sci-fi horror writer. That's what I am. I make no apologies. And the book, The Lost Road of Hope, has heavy religious overtones, and a Christian publishing company was interested in it, but I had to take the language out. And I told them, I can't do that because one of the characters grew up on the streets and had a really rough life. And so that would be her dialogue. And so I wasn't willing to make that compromise. Whether or not that was a good business decision remains to be seen, but I wanted the work to have integrity. So I was good with just self-publishing, because then I could determine, what was in the book and what wasn't. I could censor myself as opposed to having somebody else censor me. So, compromise. But if you're wanting to self-publish, you have to be willing to compromise. That's the one lesson I tell young writers. You got to be willing. The difference between an artist, a starving artist, and a published author is the ability to compromise. So,
right.
Yeah. Yep. So you've done other things like, for instance, your web show Dusk. Now you did that live.
yeah.
Was there any challenges with that? I mean, it just seems like the thing when I found that out, was the first thing that popped into my head was, well, oddly again, is Michael Keaton Birdman, where they did the all one. They just follow the camera.
One take, yeah.
There was one, I think the one cut.
Yep.
When it went from night to day, or day to night, one of those two. So yeah, I was just interested in the sort of challenge that might have presented themselves to you during the Dusk show.
Yeah, that was going to be my third book. It was called The Lost Legacy, and I couldn't afford to publish it. So I was talking with a friend of mine. They said, why don't you do a web series? I'm like, oh, I could try to transfer the screenplay. I've never done that before. So we decided to make it into a screen series, and we basically recruited a bunch of cosplayers and friends of mine who were willing to work for free, and basically Taco Bell or pizza, whatever I fed them. And so I rewrote the story and kind of changed it to like CSI meets vampires meets the mafia. That was the idea of it. And so there's this witch that's investigating these crimes that end up being caused by vampires who are supposed to be extinct. And so it opens up this doorway to a clandestine agency that is controlling everything. And the idea of it was to show that the monsters were actually humans, not the actual monsters. We decided to do the first season live, every episode one take, like you just said, live, which was ridiculous, the stupidest idea ever, because we filmed it on a phone. We had very base sound equipment. We had really good makeup people and stuff that helped, but it really was tough. To give you an example, the first episode we had, they find a body. We had a mannequin, but we didn't have, the mannequin had no head. So I told one of the actors, whatever you do, don't pull the thing back. And of course, because you're in the moment, he pulled the thing back, and we had a hashtag on the first episode, hashtag headless mannequin, because it was like you could see it. But again, it was our first year, but it was really cool. And then we did a second year the same way because we upgraded. And then I noticed that we were getting more views on the reruns than we were the live. So by the third season, we just went straight post. And we had post versions of the first two seasons. We actually took an episode. I had a friend of mine named Tyler Suggs. He did all the post work, added a soundtrack, added effects and all that, bass effects. And so we had what we called the Majestic cut, which was the post-production cut, and the live cut was out there. And then for the third season, it was all post-production. And we really had gotten up. But it was a huge learning experience for me as a filmmaker, as a director. We did episodes where we filmed at a old abandoned hospital in like 90 to 100 degree heat. We were filming all day. So I had some great dedicated people that worked their tails off, and I'm proud of it. Production wise, you always look back and go, oh, cringe. But but the effort put forth is just astronomical from the folks who did it. And that's what spawned everything else. Had it not been for Dust, nothing else would have happened. So
right. We're talking about other things that happened. You guys just brought up Dusk series, and but I know you worked on something else. You worked on a film, Harley Quinn, Harley Quinn fan film.
Mm-hmm.
What was that? What was that like doing?
So 2015-16, I wrote. I was on another project where a guy wanted to make a Harley Quinn film. A director. I wrote the script, and casted it. Got everything together, and the director ended up not working out. I'm gonna leave it like that. So I copywrote the script because I wrote it all, and I was going to shop it around, but nobody wanted to do a serious comic book film. Watchmen didn't do so well. Everybody wanted to do kind of the more comic booky film, so it shelved it. And then The Joker came out with Joaquin Phoenix, which is a phenomenal film. Mm-hmm. And I said, hey, we might have a shot. So I got a really solid cast together, including Rob Killam. He's a WCW legend. Fanil Gaubold. She's been in Nashville. She's been in a ton of different crime drama series. She's also a negotiator, SWAT team, a homicide investigator. She helped bust break open one of the biggest homicide investigations. I think it was in Fayetteville. So she was the star. She was Harley Quinn, and I wanted to have an older Harley Quinn because obviously somebody who's got her master's. She's been a profiler for the FBI, and now she's working for Arkham. So I really wanted to have a mature look on this, and so we took, I think it was 6 months, $27,000 of my own money, and we filmed this fan film. It was supposed to be 2 hours, ended up being 3 hours. So it was a Matt Reeves cut or a Snyder cut before Snyder cut existed. And we put it out for free because you can't make any money. And I said, you know what? Since the thematics of this film is abuse, domestic violence, and kind of that the manipulation, I want to raise money for a charity that kind of reflects that. So we found Gracious Hands Traditional Housing, and they help women who are in abusive situations or become homeless transition so they can rebuild their credit, have their kids schooled, they can be taken care of, and then when they're ready, they move on. It's a phenomenal organization, local based. And so we used the film to raise money for them, so we couldn't make any money for ourselves. And it did pretty well. It was filmmaking school for me, 101. I learned a ton. I became a much better filmmaker because of it. And that, again, launched us into doing the other stuff that we did. But about 26, almost 27,000 views on YouTube. I wish it'd be more. That's strictly grassroots campaign. It's a 3-hour movie, that time run, because people like the short stuff. But I was thinking at one point maybe doing a smaller cut, but I really like the movie. I like the way it tells a full story. So it is what it is. So.
And I haven't seen it yet, but I'm definitely interested. I know modern Harley Quinn has become almost like an independent character of the Joker, to an extent. You know, she's kind of moving away from him, not even currently, his girlfriend anymore. What role is he? Is it a Harley and Joker film? Like, is Joker play a heavy role in it, or is he kind of in it but not in it a whole lot? How did that dynamic work in the
Right.
movie?
That's a great question. Yeah, we really debated on whether or not to how big of a part Joker would have. And the problem with the Harley story is Joker has to play a significant part because he's what acts as the catalyst that brings her to the madness. So in our story, we explore more the Ivy Harley relationship as the more romantic relationship or the more um, um, consistent relationship, the real relationship, where Joker is the manipulator. And Harley, you find out as it goes on, is trying to play the Joker. She's trying to one up him. It's more of a mental game to game, chess game between the two. Unfortunately, Joker, we made our Joker very scary. He wasn't dipped in chemicals. I hate that ideology. It never made sense. It drops them in chemicals and they come out looking like a clown. It doesn't make sense. So our Joker is a genius who used plastic surgery to alter his face. So he's very frightening looking. And at the end of the film, of course, he betrays her, which is what leads Harley to kind of go on her own at the end because she realizes that she's going to have to be self-sufficient. It's got a really cool twist on the end as well. Our Batman is a much more violent Batman. It's a Batman who suffered after Jason Todd's death, who's trying to kind of put the pieces together. He's ready to cross the line, and we have Catwoman as a major, kind of almost like his Jiminy Cricket, trying to keep him in place. And we have a very different take on Commissioner Gordon. Our villain is Jeremiah Arkham, the guy who runs the hospital. We really focus on him as the villain. And you see Harley start as a young girl all the way up to the point where she's an adult. So you see the whole story of what triggered her to become Harley. It wasn't the Joker. There was a lot of stuff in there and a lot of unpacking. And we had young Harley, we had Fennell, and we had some scenes that were tough. There was one scene in particular that we had about 5 or 6 different takes we were going to do, and we just did one take. We couldn't. It was just because we really wanted to show people the effects and the impact of domestic violence and abuse. We wanted people to understand that. I'm a victim of it. My daughter, unfortunately, was a victim of it at the hands of her best friend. So I really wanted people to see the effect it has on a mind, especially a woman's mind, and how damaging. And so people walk away going, was Harley evil, or was she just doing so betrayed by life that this was her only option to find freedom? And so it leaves you with, I like leaving those kind of questions of, we try to kind of redefine what evil is and how those lines can sometimes blur between hero, villain, and so forth.
That sounds really, I want to watch it now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do a couple sittings.
Yeah.
I'm definitely ready
it's out
myself.
Out there on YouTube, did you say?
It's YouTube, absolutely free. We have a Be Your Own Hero Productions YouTube channel. We have Harley on there, the full feature. We've got a blooper reel, which is hilarious. And then we also have Stroh's Sister Cinema teaser. That's all on the YouTube channel. So you can watch it. Like I said, it's about 2:55. There are 2 end credit scenes. Be aware of that. It's a little lengthy. Again, learning experience taught me a lot about script writing and how to, the key to script writing is less is more. Now, some movies take that too far, but if you look at a film like The Shining, which is one of my favorites, and you actually count the dialogue, there's not a lot, but yet it has one of the most, it's a film that's still being dissected to this day by film critics because it's so good. So,
yeah. Well, we will be sure to put the link somewhere, when
thank you.
this all gets published. Yeah, we'll definitely put all the links for you. So everybody be sure to check it out. Okay, so in the future, anything coming up down the pipeline? Anything is happening with you that we need to be watching for?
Yeah, so we have Stroh's Sister Cinema, which is an idea that was brought to us by Rob Kellum, who was Dr. Jeremiah Arkham in Harley Quinn. We took the horror host the classic horror hosts that I grew up with, Elvira, Svengali, was his name? The guy who run the drive-through. I always forget his name, Bob. But that kind of thing where the host um, introduces these really cheesy horror movies, and then adding in the Mystery Science Theater 3000, Riff Track, Cinema Sins aspect. So what happens is Stro plays this warlock named Stro, who he has this magical projector, and his intention is to show movies and through that conjure the monsters from the screen into the real world to raise this evil army. Well, the projector was in the hands of his ex-girlfriend, who sabotages the projector. So every time he plays it, it brings a kind of a parody version of that monster into the real world. So our first episode is A Dog Day Afternoon, and it's about they watch the Wolfman, the 1941 Wolfman, and while they're watching it, the poltergeist, the projector, he's called Pop. He makes the comments. They're unaware. Only the audience is aware of the comments being made. So it kind of gives them that fourth wall break where everyone's kind of pulled in the joke except for the actual actors in the film. And so they bring forth this werewolf, and I was trying to think, how werewolves have been done so much. What can I do to keep the classic Universal feel, but do some? So we asked the actor Chuck Sloan, who's absolutely phenomenal. We said, Chuck, do Matthew McConaughey if he was a werewolf, and that's what we got. And Chuck is absolutely brilliant. And the cool thing about it is there's no script, so there's skits, 3 skits for each movie. So that's one at the beginning, one in the middle, one at the end. And the skits are improvised. I give them an outline and they just go forth. So all the comedy you see is natural, authentic, very organic happening. And then of course we do script the jokes, because when you watch the movie, those jokes are scripted because they have to be. We can't. It's just too hard to do that. It would take like 300 takes to get it right. So we sit down, we watch the movie. We write down the jokes, we test the jokes, and then we put them in for the commentary. But it's great. We're getting ready to distribute it. We're real close to having Amazon pick it up. Getting ready to send it to Tubi. The biggest one we're shooting for is Troma. That I would love to get Troma to pick it up, because they've got a built-in fan base. It fits right in with the Troma mainframe. So we sent it to Troma. If Troma says yes, I will freak out, because I don't know about you guys. Troma was like, you know, the 80s, it was Troma. That was, I mean, we all grew up with Toxic Avenger. All of that was just so awesome, because for filmmakers, you got to see like those really ridiculous practical effects and what people could do. And I think it actually was the forerunner for all the practical effects we have now, because they tried so much that studios would never try on their own. So we'll see what happens, but it's actually 8 episodes. So one is completely done. The rest are filmed. If we get picked up, we'll go ahead and finish the rest. But there's 8 episodes, and we have films like The Wolfman, Nosferatu, The Golden Voyage of Sinbad, the original Night of the Living Dead by George Romero. So all of those are part of it, and they're all public domain, so we don't have to get permission for them. Because if you try to get movies, like if we try to do a current, like a Jason film, it would be nearly impossible to get the rights for that, and then we could not afford it. It only cost about $5,000 or $6,000 to produce the first episode. And you would think, oh God, that must look cheap. It's incredible. You can do so much with if you do it right, you can do so much with a smaller amount of money. Blair Witch is a prime example. Blair Witch showed everyone that you can make a blockbuster film with a bare budget. It's all about writing and what you put together. And you can see how many people copied from them, and to a point where the genres kind of wore out. But we're also in the process of running a Kickstarter for a slasher flick called You're It, which is, we took a slasher film and added that Southern Gothic horror to it. It takes place in modern time, but we add the Southern Gothic lore to it. And it was inspired by Halloween, what John Carpenter did with Halloween. Basic bare bones slasher flick, which was the godfather of all their slasher flicks. And if you think about it, it wasn't gore porn. It wasn't ridiculously bloody. It was scary. It was well done. And it was done with very little money, and done with a lot of passion and love for the genre. And that's what It is. So, and it adds kind of a Saw element too, because the killer is the killer, but he doesn't just kill. He works some stuff out to get his people where he needs to be. So, and we're hoping it'll be a trilogy. So we'll see.
Yeah.
Sounds excellent. Sounds like a great future for all the horror genre people out there, and just even independent filmmakers. Sounds like something that they could look to for ideas. Definitely.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I'm definitely you definitely have my interest. I'm definitely
Well, the thing about I just got done seeing Megan, and although the girl who plays Megan is phenomenal, the aunt is phenomenal, and I'm not going to spoil anything, and the little girl's phenomenal. The rest of the script feels like it was written by an AI chatbot, and they gave it a PG-13 rating, which I think hurt it. After watching the film, me and my daughter were driving home because my daughter is a huge horror fan like I am, and we came up with like 3 plot lines that would have made the movie much better. And I feel like horror should disturb you. It doesn't have to be as over the top as Terrifier 2,
Yeah.
which is a great film for those fans of that. Terrifier 2 is like the pinnacle. But for me, I want you to walk away like what happened in Seven, where what's in the box and the way that movie ended. One of my favorite movies of all time, The Planet of the Apes, with the Statue of Liberty. That scene, the Statue of Liberty, where no one was expecting that he was on Earth, right? Spoiler alert. Um, but I want to have that kind of movie where you think the ending is what it is, but then it's not, and you walk away from the theater having to process what's happened. And Smile did that tremendously.
Mhm.
Smile is an amazing horror film, especially finales. So I really want to make horror that affects you mentally, spiritually, physically. It makes you question stuff and not just jump scare you and not just fill you with a bunch of bloody scenes, but give you stuff that really is psychologically disturbing, that challenges all the quote unquote taboos that we don't broach, as far as when it comes to horror. So nothing deviant, but stuff that, endings that really may go, dag, I didn't see that coming. Event Horizon is a prime example. That film is a complete mind freak. It's incredible to take the haunted house genre and put it in space and do what they did. That film is absolutely completely disturbing, and that's the kind of film you want to make as a filmmaker because we're still talking about Event Horizon now. If you think about half the horror films that came out in the last 5 years, how many do you actually remember? Not
Mhm.
many. Event Horizon, you remember. Halloween, you remember. The Shining, you remember. That's the kind of films I want to make.
I definitely agree with the point of like having endings or moments in films that you don't see coming. I think one of the negative impacts of social media, among the many, when it comes to like filmmaking in particular, is that there's such a need for people to like know what's going to happen
Yeah,
in the movie.
yeah.
Like, whenever any Marvel or DC movie or anything's coming out, you're like, so and so is going to be in it, or like blah 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 is going to be in it. Here's the plot. It's leaking. Like, I love going into like if I can avoid it, if I know I want to see the movie, I won't see any trailers, or if I see a very vague trailer, like
Hmm.
I'm trying to think of a movie like The Barbarian had a very vague
Yeah.
trailer, and I didn't know what was it, but I was interested and I saw it and I loved it.
Another
I just
another
feel like
great horror film. Yeah.
yeah, I just feel like there's such like a weird need nowadays to like just go in, just go see the movie, like sit
Yeah.
down, watch it. You don't need to know what's gonna happen. That's kind of the fun of it, So it's
It's for Gen Xers and Boomers. I'm Gen X. We are used to that kind of not knowing anything, and that was the fun of it. And one of the reasons why I think theaters are starting to demise is not streaming so much. Streaming is an effect, but it's because the theater experience is gone. One that what you just mentioned, that unknown. You're going in, you're the first one to see it, and that excitement. This is before everyone would spoil it. So you could a movie could be out for a week and no one would know how it ended because except for you and your friends. Um, but also because of people being so chatty and cell phones and stuff, really the whole experience becomes so kind of irritating where you barely hear the movie and sometimes the sound is off and you can do more at home where you can set things up the way you want. But I totally agree with you. I don't know what when the fandom started becoming. I have to have everything now. I know we're a microwave generation and an Instagram generation, but I don't get that. It's like opening your presents a week before Christmas and then Christmas comes and you're like, "No, I know what I got.
well, like
All the
it's
all
it's
the
like
all the magic's gone."
you think of the spot what No Way Home, which was really fun, and I love the fact that like the three Spider-Man all showed up in it, but like it was kind of like the secret that everybody knew that
Right.
they were going to show up in it, and it's like,
Yep.
well, like how amazing the reaction in the theater was great, but like, could you imagine what the reaction would have been like if nobody knew, and
Right.
then they started like, so it's just, I remember Lauren, you've told me the story before about well, when you saw Star Wars in 1980, right, and there was the guy that didn't know because like I've always known growing up that Darth Vader was Luke's father, but like in 1980, nobody knew. And then there's that scene.
Right. Yeah. We waiting in line, and the audience from the previous showing comes out, and the little kid goes, "You see Darth Vader's face." What? No, no, I'm not supposed to know that. So the kid's no longer living.
Yeah. And a deserved death nonetheless.
Yes.
So, but yeah, absolutely. That one of besides the Michael Keaton film, which Batman is one of my favorite movies of all time.
That was actually, yeah. That, speaking of not knowing what was going to happen, I think we all knew Michael Keaton was going to play Batman and Jack Nicholson was going to play the Joker. Other than that, we had no idea.
Right,
and that movie kicked my ass. I just loved it.
And who would have thought
so
Mr.
good.
Mom could play Batman? Like that was
Yeah.
the big thing, and he did so amazing. And the only thing that you know, everyone uses this unfortunately as a cheat, which I hate, but Heath Ledger did to the Joker what Michael Keaton did to Batman. No one was expecting Michael Keaton to be that Batman. Heath Ledger, I mean, I love Jack Nicholson Joker, but Ledger made the Joker real. And when you make the Joker real, he's 10 times more terrifying. And that was an amazing moment in cinematic history. Star Wars is lightning in a bottle. I don't think they're ever going to be able to replicate what happened in Star Wars when that came out. I was one of the kids that bought remember the packs that came? You didn't get figures. You got the pack, and the figures came in the mail. I had one of those. And it was like when those things came in the mail, it's like that scene from the Christmas Story with the decoder ring. You know, like you got the decoder ring. It was super exciting. And you're not going to have that anymore because, as you mentioned, Tyler, the internet has made it so those magical moments can no longer exist. They are part of history and archive, but not. I don't think you can make it happen again. I don't think they've been able to make it happen again since then. I don't remember a surprise in a movie that I was like, oh, I didn't see that coming. And Andrew Garfield, God bless him, the man must have been going to confession every other week to ask, you know, forgiveness for lying. He did his best, but he just and I think the only one that got me was the characters in the Illuminati. I'm not going to spoil it because some people may not see Multiverse of Madness, but the character choice in the Illuminati, that was surprising. And I liked it. And the whole Illuminati scene, which is vintage San Raimi, was really kind of the first time I was like, oh wow, that actually caught me off guard.
Yeah.
And of course we knew Cap was going to get the hammer, but anybody who didn't get chills up their spine when that hammer came to Cap, you got to turn your geek card in. That was an amazing scene.
Portal scene, all that. Yeah.
As bad as The Last Jedi was, that scene with Kylo Ren and Rey fighting the Snoke's whatever they were was an absolutely phenomenal scene. The rest of the movie you could throw out, but that scene, I still got chills. It was still really cool. So.
Well, so we've mentioned Batman a couple of times, and I'm our resident, you know, Batman expert. What draws you to Batman in particular? Why do you like him so much? Besides, I know you know 1989 film had a big impact, but why do you like him so much as a character?
So bare bones it, he turned tragedy, he turned his darkness into something usable and something good. And you know, there was a time in the comics where Batman did kill, but then they created this Batman code where he didn't kill, and that was a huge thing for me because this was a man who could do it and didn't do it, so he didn't let his darkness overwhelm him. That's why I have a problem with like the Injustice storylines. They're great storylines, but I want my heroes to be the good guys. I see enough on the street of people who turn out to be bad guys who I thought were good guys. I need my heroes because that's the idea of a hero is what we can't be Superman, we can't be Batman, but we can aspire to have those characteristics. You can aspire to be honest and loyal and trustworthy like Superman and have integrity and pull your punches like Superman does. You can turn your darkness into triumph with like Batman. We never get those powers. You're never going to drive around a Batmobile, maybe someday. But, you know, unless you're Elon Musk, that's not going to happen. So Batman for me is a person who took darkness and grabbed it by the horns and made it his servant as opposed to him becoming a servant to it. And the fact he's a normal guy. I mean, yes, but he's not, everyone's like, well, he's a rich guy and he's got gadgets. He's a trained assassin. The guy put the time in to become Batman. He's a master detective. He's trained. he spent the time to develop himself, and so he's counterculture because everybody wants everything easy now. Batman was not Batman until he was in his 30s because he took the time to make that path, and that's the inspiration of it. I almost feel like Kill Bill, the bride, is almost the Batman story because she takes that triumph and kind of builds into this amazing like warrioress. And so I like, since you got the shirt on, the reason why I like the Reeves Batman is not my favorite Batman, not because of the way it's written, because it's a phenomenal year one story. It reminds me of the Long Halloween. Penguin is phenomenal. There are holes in it, but all comic book movies have holes in it. But I just couldn't wrap my arm around Patterson. I really tried. I tried. But the story was great because you got to see Batman make mistakes, but then learn from them. So it was cool to kind of finally see Batman building into a better Batman. That's why I love Gotham. Gotham was really cool about that, even though it was just to see Gotham kind of spring up and why Batman had become Batman. So that's why I like Batman. Superman is my second favorite hero, and that's because he represents all the things I would like to as a man. That purity, that honesty, that integrity, the fact that he pulls his punches, that he can do harm, but he won't do harm. And that's huge. If you think about it, Superman's biggest attribute is the fact that he could crack the world open, and yet he doesn't because he's more concerned about others than he is himself. And that's the selflessness of Superman is such a huge part of his character, and people miss that. They think of him as the Boy Scout. It's not that. It's the selflessness. It's the fact that this guy adopted Earth to protect, and he doesn't have to. He doesn't have to. He could use that power and been a god on the planet. Instead, he goes, no, you know what? And he has no reason to. There's no, you can say, well, his father and all that. There's moral codes start to decay after a while. If people have absolute power, it corrupts absolutely. So Superman represents the fact that he doesn't do that. And Batman too. He doesn't fall into that darkness in the normal scope. When you get into, dark metal and all that, it's a different, and those are great stories, but I like my Batman being the good guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, a little bit off
here.
subject. Joker ranking with the Jokers that are have been in film and TV. What's well, each of us will do it. Who you go ahead first, Ron.
I'm going to leave Leto out, and the reason why is
Thank you.
We never and the unfairness to Leto is we never saw the Leto Joker. We saw the homogenized Leto Joker. So I would like to see what Leto could do. So I'm going to leave him out of the count. I'm not going to grade him because I don't think we ever saw it. But so that's a hard one because Nicholson is the quintessential comic Joker, and Ledger is the quintessential real Joker. So I almost have to put them in a tie because of that. I know you're going to think Mark Hamill, but the guy who played Jerome in Gotham, he played every Joker in Gotham. If you haven't seen it, check it out. He's my definite, my second, and then Hamill's my third. So again, I can't put Ledger in it. The one from the Matt Reeves Batman, we didn't get to see enough of, so we can't even judge him. So the other voice actors are great, but if you're comparing, Hamill eclipses everybody. He's just, and the fact that he came out and said he's not going to be Joker anymore because Kevin Conroy was his Batman. If you have a dry eye after hearing that for the first time, you have no heart. I mean, Hamill's a good guy. He's a good guy. He kept the Darth Vader secret. I mean, I don't know how you keep that secret because he was the only one that knew. But he's a good guy, and Hamill's one of the few stars that, if you ever notice, the Star Wars stars all seem to hate being in Star Wars except Hamill. Hamill loves being in Star Wars. Yeah, Ford. I still can't. Ford, that was your paycheck. Why are you so bitter? You would be nobody without those films. So you'd just be a grumpy guy. But don't forget, Ford made Air Force One, so he's got some apologizing of his own to do. But I think that I would say Ledger and Nicholson a tie, not to cheat, but tie. I think it's Cameron Minaj.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. He played, and then I think Hamill.
I probably won't do a full ranking, but I'm just gonna say with Hamill, because as reading the comics, I read the Joker's voice as whenever I read the comics, it's always in his voice. So I'm gonna say overall, if I'm reading any Joker arc I read, it's gonna be in his voice, probably forever. And of course, everything Ron said about Heath Ledger, ditto.
Yeah. Well, for me, I wasn't really thinking of the cartoons because I don't really watch the cartoons. So I honestly have never heard it. So I was more of live actor. So I would say probably my favorite Joker would be Heath Ledger. I thought he was just amazing. Number two would be Jack Nicholson. Number three would be Joaquin Phoenix. And then probably Cesar Romero. Just because I'm probably a little bit older than most of you guys. I'm 97. So I used to watch.
You look good for your age.
I was gonna tell everybody.
Thank you very much. No, so I used to watch him, the reruns at least. I wasn't quite old enough in the 60s when it originally aired, but I certainly watched a lot of it growing up on syndication. So those are my picks.
Yeah, I watched a lot of those reruns too. It was just, years after you.
Many apparently.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right.
But I'm at a tie between Joaquin Phoenix and Heath Ledger. Jack Nicholson, yeah, he comes close. He does. But yeah, I'm at a cross between them, and it's just from watching the movies and just really, they really got me.
No.
Yep. You really felt when you watched Joaquin Phoenix play the Joker, you kind of like you start seeing like okay, you saw it building up.
Mhm.
Everything
always
going
getting
wrong.
picked on.
Yeah, he was the first. I'm trying to think. I hope I'm not incorrect. He's the first anti-hero Joker, I think. I didn't think of him as the bad guy in that film. And it was a great study of the lack of focus we have on the mentally ill and how to resolve those issues. So he took it to like an Oscar level. I never think of him as the Joker only because it was such a unique performance. I don't like calling him a proto Joker. It's separate from everything, and I'm glad they kept it separate. I'm kind of upset they're doing a sequel. I felt like they kind of had a nice package. I'm hoping the sequel doesn't detract from the first movie. But you're right, Joaquin was phenomenal. He put everything into that role.
And speaking of movies that like you don't know what happened, you still really don't. By the end of that movie, you don't know, did any of that stuff actually happen? Did he? It's been enough years. Did he actually kill that guy? Did he? Is he in the? Did that riot even actually happen? Or does like I've seen theories that scene happens directly after that, or is that actually a couple decades later? Because people say his hair is kind of grown out a little bit. That he's he remembers, oh, Batman's Bruce. It's such a cool. There's so many theories about that ending. So just I know, great movie.
I have no doubt that I can't remember the director's name did a case study in The Shining because with the clock stopping at 11, like you said, some of the scenes being out of order. There's a scene where he's actually in the asylum and you see him in the asylum and you're not quite sure where to place that prior to the end. The girlfriend not being there and the audience being so convinced that the girlfriend was there was the rest of it just kind of a trick on us. You're absolutely right, Tyler. It's psychologically, it's phenomenally written. And I don't even classify as a comic book movie. I'm afraid when you do that, you almost pull away from what it is. It really is just this amazing character study that we don't see anymore in film. You don't see it. And people replace that with slow burn. And slow burn's great, but it doesn't replace good storytelling and good character development. And you got to have the actor do it. And Joaquin Phoenix, Heath Ledger, these are actors that put everything they are into these roles. God bless Heath Ledger, apparently to a point where it caused damage. But it's just amazing. And I agree with you. I don't know why I didn't mention Joaquin Phoenix, but both you and Timothy are 100% correct. That is an amazing interpretation.
Right. Yeah, I hear that with the next film that, and I could be wrong, but just rumors speculating. Here we are talking about rumors. Lady Gaga is supposed to play Harley Quinn.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to be a musical.
Yep.
What?
Yeah.
I think it's going to be cool. I think it's going to be,
Lauren's
but it's going to
face
be
said it
different. It's
all.
going to be really different, though. I think it's going to. They're going out there, so we'll see. We'll see. That's in 2024, so we got time.
I have mixed feelings about it, but to your point, Tyler, if they're going with the is this in her mind or really
Mhm.
happening, the whole thing with him dancing was an example of how kind of in his mind the music was playing. So
Mhm.
it does kind of coordinate with that. But I'm like you, Tim. Musicals kind of had their time, so it's a dangerous game to play. Just don't do anything like Cats, and I'll be fine. Cats the movie,
Yeah, no.
that was horrific. I saw that should be the greatest horror movie of all time, and it wasn't meant to be. It was accidental.
All right. Well, Ronald, as um, moving on, I'm wondering, with all the charity working you do, what's the most rewarding part of all that, all the charity work?
To be able to do it, that's to be able to be part of that, and people allow me part of it is awesome. I kind of battle with it because I think we just all naturally have pride. It's there, and you're so terrified that you're like, oh, I'm proud I did this, and so it processing is hard because you know I really want to be selfless about it, and I want to make sure that I'm doing it for the right reasons. So, but to be able to do it and have that effect, we did a Make a Wish, one of the first charity things, big charity things I did besides like little charity races and stuff. We did a Make a Wish. I did it with Tyler Suggs, the guy I mentioned. He was Spider Man. No, I'm sorry, not Tyler. Charlie. He was a friend of mine too. He did Spider Man as well. We did a Make a Wish at the airport. These kids were flying down to Disney World, and there was a delay, so we were in the airport and we're waiting for these kids to come, and of course it caused a huge scene. The police had to come and like cordon us off because we just had these lines of people wanting to take pictures with Batman, Spider-Man. I don't think they planned it out that well. This is pre 9/11, by the way. And so when the kids finally came, they were terrified of us, terrified. And the last thing you want to do is terrify a child who has stage 4 or stage 5 cancer. So we kind of held back. They had a train that they took them on, so we got to the terminal where they were going to get on the plane, and I was trying to break the ice, and so he had a bunch of Matchbox cars. So I got down on the floor as Batman, and we started playing Matchbox cars. And the brother saw it. I think it was the brother saw it, and he started doing that with Charlie. And I looked up, and Charlie's mask was wet because he couldn't stop crying because we're playing with these two kids. And we got done, and they finally hugged us, and we had warmed up, and they walked out. And this father, very, very uh, blue collar father, comes up to me, and this is a kind of guy, works on his own truck, tough guy, bawling, grabs me, and gets close to the side of my cowl and says, "This is probably going to be his last." I think it was his birthday, his last birthday. Thank you for making it so special. Now you can't do that to Batman because Batman doesn't cry. So, and then apparently the mother did that to Charlie. So they went on the plane, and Charlie and I went downstairs. I decowled, and it took us 30 minutes to get our composure back because at that point you're just there, you're in the moment. And I remember on the way back, driving back, I just thank God for the ability to do that and to be there for that kid, that he has that memory and his family has that positive memory. And then my family being ravaged with cancer even hit home more than that. So to be able to be part of that, I understand why a lot of celebrities don't do Make-A-Wish because it is emotionally taxing to see a child suffer. Doesn't matter how much joy you bring, to watch a child suffer is one of the most awful things to see, and they're really heroes. When you see a kid smile who's got tubes running out of his face, who's feeling pain that you can't imagine, and smile and keep going, that's a hero. That's what a hero is. Um, so to be able to do that kind of stuff is a real blessing. We just did an event at a place where it's a hospital for kids who are kind of transitioning, who have really deep-seated issues and traumas. And we walked in, and the guy, I had first time I worked with this gentleman, And I walked in as Batman. And I'm having these conversations, and like Tyler, knocking off Batman facts, like I'm Batman. You know, where's Robin? He's washing the Batmobile. You know, where's Joker? He's in Arkham. I got to get better security because they keep getting out. I got to call CPI. Those kind of things. You know, having the fun. And these kids are laughing. And I walked out, and the guy said to me, "Oh my God, I can't believe that happened." I thought he was mad at me. I'm like, "Oh shoot, I crossed the line. I was too silly or whatever." He goes, "Those kids don't interact." And to be able to do that, it's very humbling. I don't take any pride in it. I don't take any bragging rights. It really is something that I'm thankful for that I'm able to do. And that's what makes the cosplay and being the Batman special. Love going to cons and showing off and getting pictures, but that's what makes it special because I see myself in that kid who sees me and gets joy out of it when I was not getting that, where I had a father who was very abusive. And so the guy who's supposed to be my hero is my enemy, and not having anybody save me, because back in those days everyone kept to themselves. Nobody, you know, you didn't cross those lines. You know, there was tradition and all that, and so I didn't have anybody to save me. So I would have killed to have somebody walk up to me as Batman and just say, "Dude, you're going to be okay," you know, and things are going to work out. So yeah, so I'm just grateful to be able to do it, and I hope to do it as long as I can. So COVID really threw stuff off, and legitimately so, because obviously you don't want to be around sick kids with COVID. That's you don't want to add one more thing to their plate, but it's starting to open up now. So I'm hoping that I'm going to be able to do some more stuff with that.
Awesome. That's so awesome.
I want to thank you again, man. You know, what you do, and you know, talking about these kids and you know, them being the heroes and everything. It just sounds, you know, it's very touching.
It's again, I say it with any accolade to myself, because those kids are, I mean, I wear a costume and I play a character. These kids are the real heroes, and I just admire and respect them. I respect their parents so much. When we did the last event with the kids who had the trauma, and they're fighting to get past this trauma, and I have such respect for that. And it makes you angry at the world. You have to be careful, because you can become very cynical, very angry at the world, because those kids should not be going through that. They should not have that in their life. They should not have that. That's not privilege. That's reality. No child should have to suffer at the hands of any form of abuse, whether it be from a parent, a family member, a friend. And to see that, and to be a kid who was bullied, and to know what that feels like, and not understand why. You know, I just showed up in the cafeteria and I had a Batman shirt on, but suddenly now I'm your prey. I never got that. But you understand, it's a sickness. People who bully, who do damage, have their own trauma, and they're just using it. Unlike Batman, they're using it in the darkness, where, again, going back to Batman took that trauma and made it something positive. And that's what I want to do. I hope to do that to my last breath.
That's yeah, like, yeah, I mean, it's extremely touching to all of us. And you're right, the kids are the heroes. What are you going to do next? What cons do you have coming up here in the future? Are you signed up for any, or do you just appear?
So right now we have our normal con schedule, and we're going to get larger, but we're waiting for the distribution of Stroh's, because that might take us into more horror cons. And if we do hook up with Troma, I think Troma might have some advice on which cons to hit and all that. But our next con is Statesville Comic Con. It's on February 11th. I think I'm right.
We'll be there.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. Am I right? February 11th, correct?
Yep.
Yeah, we're there.
So I'll be running the cosplay contest for Sherry. Sherry is one of the greatest people who ever lived. She is living sunshine, and she's going through a real tough time. So please keep her in your prayers. But she is such a person of integrity, such a rare breed. And I do Statesville for her, Greenville, Marion. We used to do Shelby when Shelby was there, and all that. But we're doing Statesville next. And we run the cosplay contest for her, which we're very honored to have that. Then it'll be off to Power Comic Con in Florence, South Carolina, which is a phenomenal con. It's run by a gentleman named Brian. Great con. I'm helping at the cosplay contest there. We'll be promoting Stroh's. And then Charlotte Comic Con in April. We'll be running the cosplay contest there. We're also at Statesville, at PowerCon, and at Charlotte Comic Con. We will be showing the first episode of Stroh's. So you'll actually be able to see it before it goes distribution. And we're just doing that at cons. So hopefully people will like it as much as we do. And then I think that's it for the next 3 months for now. But we don't do here. I've done Heroes Con before. It's a phenomenal con, one of the best cons out there. But for what we do, Heroes Con is really a comic con. It's a true comic con, and unless you're a comic artist or involved in comics, it's tough as a vendor or a toy vendor. It's tough as a vendor to kind of make up your cost involved. So I think this year we're just going to go and pay the ticket and just go and have a good time. But it's a great con, and Sheldon runs a phenomenal. Charlotte doesn't appreciate Sheldon. Sheldon is such a moneymaker for Charlotte, and they treat him like such crap, and I hate it because Heroes Hard to Find is an icon in Charlotte. He runs the Charlotte Minicon, and Heroes Con brings in 30 to 50,000 people, I think, during the weekend. It is such a huge revenue generation for Charlotte. They should be kissing his feet. So, and I'm glad Shelton, Rick, and Dave will run Charlotte Comic Con. Brian, these guys are keeping the true Comic Cons. I mean, I love pop cons and stuff, but they're keeping the true Comic Cons in place. If it wasn't for them, you wouldn't have those pure Comic Cons, which I enjoy. Because there's nothing cool than watching a bunch of guys to go through comics, and you see the excitement. And I like seeing that because it's the kid coming out, and we all deal with such crap. Everyone kind of craps on the fact, oh, well, you shouldn't collect toys or collect comics. That's immature, dude. Listen, I got a mortgage, I got taxes, I'm raising 2 kids. You know, I deal with a job every day. I'm gonna have my Batman figures. You don't like it? Do your thing. It's amazing that you can paint your face blue, spend what $300-400 on a sports outfit, act like an idiot at a football event. That's normal. But if I wear my Batman shirt or wear a Batman costume at cons, somehow I'm strange. I don't understand the mentality of that, but whatever. It is what it is.
Well, Lauren does both, so
yeah.
The Seahawks.
Good for you.
Yep.
I got out in the 80s and 90s after the Giants kind of went. So I haven't been in football since, and I can't stand the Panthers. So God bless them, I can't stand them.
Yep. Are you originally from here, or are you from New York?
I'm from New Jersey.
New Jersey.
Yeah.
Ah, the Jersey boy right down there.
You guys, Tyler, you probably will not know what I'm talking about, and good for you. But and you might have heard a little bit, but we came at 87 because my father got a job. Get this, as a superintendent at the water park at PTL, at the Jim Baker thing. And the year we went in is the year the scandal broke. And I will tell you that there's a lot of cocaine at PTL. A lot of cocaine, because I worked in the water park, but I drove the train, which is really cool. I drove the train. Remember the train that used to go around? I drove that, which is like so awesome at 17. But that's when we came down. And then after that, my father became an auctioneer, and so we stayed. And so I've been in North Carolina since 87. Now we're in South Carolina. I love the Carolinas. I have not been back to Jersey since. I have no desire to go back.
Yeah. I live in Fort Mill, which is right by PTL.
Yep. Yeah, we were in Lake Wiley, which we tried to get in Fort Mill, but it was during the housing boom, and not going to happen. Not going to happen.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Me and Tyler were at Rock Hill, but
Rock Hill too.
Rock Thrill.
But I mean, I was for the most part raised in Jersey, in Freehold, New Jersey.
That's right. We were Tom's River, so we were almost neighbors.
Yeah. I mean, I do miss certain parts of Jersey. I go back, or I've been back a couple times to visit friends and family, for weddings or things like that. And certain stuff I do miss. Pizza, bagels.
Bagels, pizza, and deli sandwiches. Absolutely. Hands down. So hands down.
Wow. And that and Great Adventure. I mean, how awesome would Great Adventure be here? Like, I had gotten so much DC material. I've got a Batman cape that I got at Great Adventure. Yeah.
They're not faring so well now, but I remember that was because they used to have the safari you rode through when they allowed that, and the monkeys would tear off your windshield wipers. It was great. I don't ride roller coasters because I think it was called Dorney Park. They had a roller coaster that was just basically a big vertical loop, and we
Mhm.
got stuck upside down for a half hour. That was the last time I rode out. And hanging, it was awful. And my wife got me on a ride one time, and I turned white, and I said, I'm never going to forgive you because I don't do roller coasters. But Great Adventure was an amazing park. Also, Busch Gardens, phenomenal. And then I don't know if you've ever been to Hershey. Hershey was like the big deal. We would travel to Pennsylvania, Hershey Park, and as soon as you walked in the park, all you smelled was that chocolate, and it was like Willy Wonka. You were like waiting for him to pop out, and with the Oompa Loompas.
Yep. We took my son there. I've taken my kids to Great Adventure multiple times so they would see all the DC characters. Great times.
The poor man's Disney
like
World.
You gotta say like a real Jersey. You gotta say chocolate. You know,
it's chocolate. What I still say, what a like I do. My wife makes fun of me all the time. I say, what a. No, but
what are you trying to get at, boy?
Yeah. So, and my wife is pure Southern. Like her family is as Southern, makes Paula Dean look like she's a Yankee. And so when I came in, this damn Yankee into the relationship, they hated me, but I won them over. I don't know how. And had great relationships with her entire family. So, but my wife I am very attracted to Southern accent. She has an amazing Southern accent. She always feels bad about it. I'm like, sweetie, that's the thing. Keep that up. Don't lose that. So I think British and Southern are my two favorite accents.
Yeah.
Well, Ron, this has been awesome, and we've really enjoyed talking with you, and we thank you for all that you do. This has been a roller coaster of an episode talking about all sorts of movies and stuff, and it's probably the closest I've come in an episode to actually tearing up. So, thank you for everything that you do. We've loved having you on, and I'm sure we're going to be crossing paths pretty soon at some of these cons.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you'll definitely have to stop by the booth, or we'll try to find you and say hello in person.
Oh, yes. And thank you for having me. I mean, the fact you guys have me on your podcast is such an honor. So I'm just a guy who collects Batman and likes to write stuff. So the fact that you guys would have me on is absolutely awesome. So thank you.
This is what we really like to do. So we love, talking, shooting the breeze with, fellow geeks, and, hopefully people enjoy listening.
Oh yeah. I've seen all 3 viewers, so it's getting out there.
And trust me, been there, so I know. So they just came out with a Batman fan film, which is absolutely beautiful. It's called The Oath, by the way. If you want to check it out, it's set in the Tim Burton universe, and it looks like it was made by Tim Burton. That thing I think it's closing on like 500,000 views, and then my film has 26,000. So it's a heartbreak, but you go, you know what? They're doing great. You got to start somewhere. I started late. It's okay. I'll get there. And this has been awesome. You guys are phenomenal. I mean, very professional, and I've enjoyed every second.
Oh, we appreciate
Look at professional. Wow, I gotta write. I need a pencil. I gotta write that.
Write that down here.
Somebody said we're professional. Wow.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been on some that have been interesting. God bless them, but this has been very professional. I appreciate it. So
you heard it here first, folks.
Yes.
Well, we appreciate it, and like I said, we're looking forward to seeing you soon, and we're looking forward to seeing all the stuff that you guys come out with, and we'll talk to you soon, Ron.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.